Hey, welcome to Sullivan Smart Sense. I'm Heather Sullivan. Thanks so much for being with us. We're going to have a lot of fun today because we're going to talk about a really fun topic. We're going to talk about travel because we know everybody is itching to go somewhere. And it's that time of year. We've got spring and summer travel coming up. Everybody wants to get out there and explore and spread their wings. And there's so much demand. We're seeing prices rise. So I've got a great expert that's going to be with us in just a couple of moments. Haley Berg from Hopper is going to join us to talk about the hot destinations, ways to save money, how we can manage some of the craziness that we've been seeing with flights and things like that, what we can expect this year. So she'll be joining us in just a couple of moments. As you know, I've been talking on social media. I just got back from a cruise myself. I cruised to Mexico last week, and we are seeing this huge boom in cruising right now. So just last night, I filed this report I want to share with you about the boom that we're seeing, and also we're getting more ships and terminals at the Port of Galveston. So take a look at what's happening here.
Cruising is making a comeback. Cruise lines say bookings are rolling in like tall waves, and the Port of Galveston is also welcoming new ships and terminals.
Consumer reporter Heather Sullivan had the tough assignment to bring us this story.
I'm cruising on the Gulf of Mexico right now. I wanted to share the beautiful sunrise with you. Now, this deck has been positively packed with people. As cruise lines say that sales are booming this year, people are really taking advantage of the deals that were designed to entice them back. And the Port of Galveston says new ships are coming into port this year.
Cruise passengers are bidding a fond farewell to the pandemic and saying all aboard to deals that have been up to 30% off. But that high demand is now driving prices back up.
Now is the time to book for the best deals because they're going to continue to go up and sell out.
Galveston is seeing a tsunami of growth. In November, Royal Caribbean opened this new $125 million all-solar powered terminal with speedy check-in and check-out.
It's state of the art. It's net zero for electricity use. First of any cruise terminal in the United States. It's got facial recognition. So when you come in, they already know who you are.
In December, the Norwegian Prima will start sailing from Galveston. Carnival will replace the Vista with the new, bigger Jubilee. And in 2024, the Carnival Miracle will offer longer excursions.
However, Royal is already doing it, and it's been doing that. It's been going to as far south as Cartagena, Colombia, and those areas down there. And so I think that also, Carnival is seeing that.
The Carnival Terminal will get a $40 million upgrade.
Jubilee is going to bring 2,000 more passengers with that ship. So, then now we have to enhance our embarkation areas, our check-in areas, to handle that many more people.
And MSC Cruises is now in negotiations to add a fourth cruise terminal. While prices are starting to rise, a travel advisor can help you save.
If you're flexible, we really have the ability to go in and look at different dates, look at different sailings, different cruise lines, prepaying your gratuities, getting your shore excursions early because they will sell out, buying your drink package early because it's at a discounted rate most of the time.
The port also offers a prepaid discount and rewards program to save you money and time on parking.
I put resources to cruise planning and tips to save money on Sullivan Smart Sense on Fox26Houston.com. On the Gulf of Mexico, Heather Sullivan, Fox 26 News. All right, so there you go. So we have a lot happening in cruising. So if you are a cruise fan, the ships are coming in to pick you up. But let me introduce now, this is Haley Berg joining us from Hopper. Haley, thank you so much for being with us. I think people are just so excited to get out and travel this year.
We're seeing it in data on the Hopper app and beyond. The demand for travel, especially these spring break getaways coming out of a tough winter in many cities, is just huge. Many travelers are looking for warm weather, beaches, maybe some warm weather in the Gulf of Mexico like you.
Yeah. And I want to let our viewers know before we dive into anything, we're here to take your questions. I'm starting to get some hellos and comments. But if you have a question about a trip or you're just looking at, anything and what you want to know about the outlook, just write your questions below and we will try and answer them while we're here. Well, first, let's take a look at what we can expect, Haley, because we know we've been seeing prices rising because the demand is so high. So first, what's your outlook? What do things look like in terms of what we can expect to pay? And is there a good time to try and save some money?
Absolutely. So, if you've already booked travel or at least started planning your spring and summer vacations, you've probably seen and felt that prices are higher. And the reality is, prices are a lot higher than they were at this time last year. Airfare is about 20% higher than this time in 2022. Hotel prices, 30 to 60% higher, depending on where you're staying. But there is some silver lining. Last year, there wasn't a whole lot of travel demand right now. Early March, we were still coming out of the Omicron wave. Travel really hadn't rebounded, so prices were extremely low. If we zoom back to 2019, the prices that we're seeing today are pretty in line with travel prices for flights, hotels, even rental cars pre-pandemic. So although there's some sticker shock, just know that these are prices we've seen before. But a lot of that increase is coming from demand. Travelers looking to go on a spring break getaway, maybe for the first time in 3 or 4 years. Travelers thinking about those bigger bucket list vacations during the summer. So everyone is definitely feeling a bit of sticker shock. But the good news is that there are still ways to save. There are always ways that you can shave dollars and cents off of your travel expenses.
Okay, well, let's talk a little bit about that. What are some of the maybe destinations or trips that we can be thinking about that would be a little lower on the spending?
So right now, a lot of travelers booking for spring specifically are looking at Las Vegas, Phoenix, destinations in Florida, those warm weather destinations that offer both warm weather and fun. Those destinations are likely to be pretty expensive too, because flights are filling up and they're in really high demand. So if you are thinking about maybe staying in the US, consider some alternate destinations: Myrtle Beach, Savannah, destinations that will give you beach, warm weather, but might not be as popular, a little bit off the beaten track. You can save hundreds on airfare just by looking at alternate destinations.
Wow, that is a really great idea. What are your thoughts about trying to save on hotels? Would the hotel costs be a little lower in some of those areas too?
Absolutely. Houston is actually a great example of a place that is pretty inexpensive to fly into, and hotel rates are relatively low, much lower than a national average. So you're looking for your Houston outside of Texas for vacation. And a lot of these cities off the beaten track are going to have lower fares, but also lower hotel rates. And one of the most important things that you can do is plan ahead. You can still take a vacation to Orlando or Las Vegas or Phoenix. If you plan ahead, that's going to be the best way you save. But off the beaten track destinations are a pretty surefire way to save a little bit, but also skip the crowds.
Okay. And we just got a question from Bob. I think it's along the lines of what we were just talking about. But he says, can a brick and mortar agency match the price points of the aggressive mega online agencies? Is playing the field still the same, or are there better hidden perks offered to the megaonline.com names? I think he's wondering about whether to sort of, target the smaller businesses for travel than maybe some of the big national ones.
Mm-hmm. So there are a lot of different ways that you can get really great rates. Sometimes brick and mortar travel agencies are a good way. I work at the Hopper app, and what we do is we aggregate every single possible fare for flight or rate for hotels into a single place. And because we're an app, we're considered a closed platform, and that's key. Closed platforms can sell rates that you won't find elsewhere on other websites, similar to how a traditional brick and mortar travel agent worked when they were much more popular in 20, 30 years ago. So we aggregate all of that into one place. So oftentimes you can find lower rates if you're using an app, a closed platform, online travel agency. But something else to keep in mind specific to flights. Oftentimes we get the question, is it cheaper to book two one-ways? Should I really use a lot of sweat and elbow grease to put together some trip that saves me a couple dollars? An app like Hopper does that work for you. They're called hacker fares. We do the analysis. We have an entire team dedicated to building machine learning models that will combine one ways, round trips, create fares that you can't find elsewhere that are cheaper. So there is always an advantage to shopping around. The travel industry is competitive for a reason, because we know travelers are going to price check on other websites or with a travel agent. But definitely leverage online travel agencies or the Hopper app, and you'll see different and usually better rates.
Yeah, great question and great tip. Thank you so much for sharing that and telling us about how the app works. I think it's such a great tool people want to look at. Let's talk a little bit about flights, because not only have we seen flight prices climbing, but of course, everyone's been watching all this chaos over the last few years with flights being canceled, flights being delayed. What does the picture look like moving forward? Is it going to be any better, or should we prepare for some of that?
Mm-hmm. We have definitely seen levels of disruption that are new to us in this past year. Last summer, we saw delay rates over 30-40% on certain days, cancellation rates as close to 10%, which is thousands of flights impacted. Now, the good news is the structural problems with the travel industry that were causing a lot of those delays have been fixed. Last summer, airlines had gone from very few flights to trying to operate their full 2019 schedules with fewer staff members and less support on the ground at airports from the FAA, TSA. So airlines took a step back. They're operating now schedules that they can really fulfill on time. And they've been very public, especially in earnings calls, saying, we're only going to fly what we can maintain, deliver service to travelers on time. So the bigger structural problems that were causing the mass delays and cancellations last year, for the most part, have been fixed. Now, there are a few other factors that are still at play. One is weather. I am in Boston right now. It is snowing, it is raining, and Boston Logan Airport has lots of delays and cancellations. We can't control those, but they are seasonal. So we can track, are they impacting more flights than usual? And what we're seeing today is that the delay and cancellation rate across the US is pretty much in line with pre-pandemic levels. We're not expecting to see these huge crushes of delays and cancellations going to spring and summer. Weather will always be a little bit of an outlier, but we're also expecting to see continued improvements from the FAA, from airports, more of those structural challenges that have been happening in the last couple of months. So no expectation that the major disruptions continue, but always check the weather before you head to the airport, because you never know.
Okay. Yeah, that's a little reassuring, because I think a lot of people were worried about what that might look like. What about rental cars? It was, during the pandemic, of course, we had this huge rental car shortage. The prices were crazy. I know that it's gotten better, but where does that situation stand?
Right now, the average cost of renting a rental car is about 15% lower than this time last year. So prices, as you pointed out, were very high mid-pandemic and even into early 2022, as a lot of travelers sought driving as an alternative to flying. So prices have recovered to pre-last year levels, pre this crush of demand, but a lot of the price is going to depend on where you are. As you mentioned, the car rental companies have really struggled with having enough cars to rent. This is the same reason why it's really expensive to buy a new car right now. There have been supply chain challenges since 2020 that are making new cars more expensive, harder to find. And for rental car companies, that means not investing in adding new cars to their fleet. So their fleets are a bit smaller than they would expect to be, which means when you get to the airport hoping to rent a car for vacation or for a road trip, there might be fewer cars available. The way that rental car companies have solved this problem is moving the inventory to where the people are. So if you're renting a car in Southern Florida right now, you are probably seeing rates as low as $20 or $30 a day, because there are plenty of cars and plenty of people to rent them. If you are in Minnesota, if you are in North Dakota, some of these cold weather destinations that aren't booming with tourism right now, prices are still relatively high because there are fewer cars available. So improvements at the national level, but if you're in one of those unlucky cold weather destinations, it might be a little bit more expensive.
Okay. Yeah, everything just seems to be kind of sensitive to the different area and different conditions. Well, I know you've really got your eye on the cool findings out there. So let's kind of dive into some ideas of what are popular destinations and ways people might save. Let's start with looking at Europe. I mean, are we seeing a lot of interest in people traveling over there, or is the war in Ukraine still kind of deterring people? Like, what are you guys seeing?
Europe is always the number one region for US travelers. About a third of searches made from the US to international destinations are actually to different countries in Europe. So it's always hugely popular. That is still the case now. We haven't seen an impact from the war in Ukraine, and we continue to see that those hotspot destinations are the most popular: London, Paris, Rome. That said, there are really, really great deals specifically to Portugal. Portugal is a great example of what I call a gateway to Europe city. There are a lot of low price direct flights into Lisbon and into Porto, Portugal, that get you transatlantic. And then you can buy those cheap inter-European flights to get around to different cities that you might want to explore. So for travelers who are thinking about that bucket list Europe vacation, as we know most think about around this time of year, think about Portugal. Think about cheaper cities within the region that you're headed to that can get you there and then give you access either via train or short flight to other destinations in the same region.
I keep hearing more and more about how wonderful Portugal is. One of my close friends is actually looking at moving there for retirement. It just looks so beautiful. So I think that's definitely something people should check out. What about traveling stateside here within the country?
Yeah, domestic flights right now are averaging about $270 per round trip ticket. So airfare to many US cities is going to be significantly cheaper than going abroad, even to some of those regional destinations in Mexico or Central America. So I always encourage travelers who are thinking about, that epic 1 week bucket list vacation or just a weekend getaway, always check out what's local. We see a lot of demand to Florida at this time of year, and then Utah, Wyoming, Colorado for skiing. But check out some of those off the beaten track destinations. Nashville, very temperate at this time of year. A lot of airlines fly direct there with low prices. An example of a great kind of a little bit off the beaten track, still popular city that can offer a lot of what travelers are thinking for, but for a bit less than definitely that European vacation, but also a bit less than maybe the traditional Florida or ski getaway at this time of year.
Okay. And let's take a look at the islands. What looks good to you there?
Well, airfare to San Juan, Puerto Rico is among the lowest for travelers who are thinking about heading to the Caribbean, Gulf of Mexico, and especially low price coming out of Texas. So definitely check out Puerto Rico. Dominican Republic is always a hot spot for low fares and a lot of flights available to book. So those are two of the hot spots, but we are seeing demand across the region. Cayman Islands, St. Kitts, the Bahamas, some of those islands that we're seeing a lot of new demand to.
Okay. What would be some of your tips to just kind of manage some of the hassles and stress that can come with traveling?
The number one stressor for most travelers is, am I paying too much for this trip? And we know that, we hear it all the time. And that's why price monitoring is so important to both relieving your anxiety and saving you money. So we recommend to start monitoring the price of your trip months before you plan to take it. So if you're planning to take a spring break trip, you should be in the booking phase. If you're starting to think about summer, this is good advice for you. Start monitoring the price of where the trip that you want to take. Maybe a couple different dates, a couple different destinations. You can do that in the Hopper app. You can search for the trip you want to take, hit the watch button, and we will send you notifications on what the prices are doing and when it's the right time to buy. But planning ahead and price monitoring is key. Typically, you can save upwards of $50 on domestic tickets, over $100 on international, just by booking at the right time. So planning ahead is key. Flexibility is also key. So if you can fly midweek, say Tuesday, Wednesday for a domestic trip, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday for an international, you can save hundreds on your airfare. Now, it takes a little bit of flexibility. You have to either not have school or sneak the kids out of school or take some time off work. But if you have remote work flexibility or any flexibility in your schedule, that is a surefire way to save significantly on your airfare and on your hotel stay.
You mentioned timing when it comes to making those purchases. Are there good times that, like, do we have to get up at 2 o'clock in the morning on a Tuesday? Like, when should we be buying our tickets?
Yes, this is the forever myth that if you get up at 6 a.m. on a Tuesday and you go in a private browser, you name it. The reality is that for the trip that you're going to take, it might be Tuesday at 6 a.m. that the best price is available, but it might not. The Tuesday myth actually comes about because back in the day, when airline marketing teams would come back from the weekend on Monday, they might see their sales are a little soft on a certain route and they'd put a sale on Tuesday, so prices would be lower. So there is a little bit of history and truth to the Tuesday myth, but really what you should be doing is planning ahead, using a price monitoring tool, because no one has time to be checking the price of their trip repeatedly. And if you check often, you're going to see that price fluctuate a lot. And if you see it go up, you might get anxious and think, I should book, the price went up, but it might be coming back down. So use a price monitoring tool, take the weight off your own shoulders, because that anxiety about, am I getting the best price? Am I booking at the right time? It can really ruin the feeling of excitement when it comes to actually booking your vacation.
It does. It does. Well, Haley, this was a great conversation and a lot of fun too. Thank you so much. This is, folks, if you're just joining us, Haley Berg with Hopper, and you want to go to the Hopper app I've got right here. Just go to the Hopper app if you want to get some more information. They're really a great tool to help you save money and plan a great vacation. So, Haley, thanks so much for being with us. I really appreciate it.
Great being with you today.
All right. And thank you so much for being with us as well. This is always a lot of fun to talk about travel and our dreams of where we're going, and hopefully giving you some tips to save a little money along the way. And let us know if you have more questions or, great plans, maybe a great trip you've already taken. Just send me a note. We'd love to hear about it. Any other topics you'd like to have us cover here, also just send me a note and we will cover those as well. Thanks so much for being with us, and we'll see you next time.